Hello, I'm John Adams, also known as Gulf Coast Nomad. You may have seen my blog posted around the internet. I post pretty regularly on Facebook and occasionally on Twitter too. This video is about sharing location information. I belong to a number of groups on Facebook that share information. They take pictures or they share information about campgrounds. And I commonly hear a comment from people about sharing the location of that information. And it seems to me that this may be something people aren't that familiar with, how to share location information. So I thought I would create a video to give you a few tips on how to get that done. Now I'm going to take a look at a couple of different ways to find a location on Google Maps, and then we'll talk about a couple different ways to share that information once you've found your spot. The first thing we're going to look at is a street address. Then we'll do a Google search for a company, a business, and then we'll just go to Google Maps and pick a location right on the maps. And then finally, we will look at an app that runs on Android phones. I don't know if it runs on iPhones or not, but it is very popular. So my guess is it probably is available for your iPhone as well. But it's called Send My Location, and it sort of automates some of the stuff we're going to talk about that we'll be doing manually here. So the first thing I want to do is a street address. So we'll just go to the Google search box and we'll type in a street address. And I'm just going to pick a address that I've been testing with. 100 Main Street, Tucson, Arizona. Now, Google's pretty smart, and they recognize that I misspelled Tucson. I'm going to click on the correct spelling, and Google will find it. Now, one of the things you want to keep in mind is that some towns may have Main Street. They may have also Main Avenue, Main Boulevard. You know, there are lots of different ways to identify a street, and you want to be careful that you don't get the wrong one. Google's going to do their best to try to figure it out, but if the town has two or three in there, you may get turned around with that. So just watch for that little caveat. Now, we found 100 North Main Avenue in Tucson, and that's fine. That's just for this example, we'll use that. So that map in the middle of the screen that you see right there, that is what's called a clickable hotspot. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the map, and it's going to take me to the Google Map app that runs on my Android phone. There's probably a similar mapping app that would run on an iPhone. I'm just not familiar with iPhones. But in this case, I'm using the Google Maps app. Now, if you don't have a Maps app installed, it'll most likely take you back to your browser to do this. Now, you can see in the middle of the screen, we've got the map again displayed, and there's the little red, it's called a dropped pin in the center of the screen, and that's the actual location. If we were to zoom out a little bit, we could see we were pointed to Tucson, Arizona, and that's 100 North Main Avenue. Now, the 100 North Main Avenue with Tucson, Arizona, the address that's typed at the bottom of the screen, again, that's a clickable hotspot. So I want to click on that because we have one more menu that we need to get to, and there we have it. Now, this menu has a row of icons through the center there, and you can see one of them says Share. So that's the option we want to be able to share this address for somebody else or with somebody else. I'm going to click on Share now, and we'll get the sharing menu. And all of these applications are installed on my phone, and they're able to accept shareable information. So this menu will be different depending on what apps you have installed on your device that are able to share information or accept shareable information. Now, there are a couple here I want to look at, and the first one is Google Keep. It's the yellow box in the upper left corner, and I'm going to click on that, and I will get a sharing screen. Now, if I just click on the Save button, it's just going to save it to the Google Keep database. But it'll also pop up a little box at the bottom of the screen, and if I touch that, it'll open Google Keep, and allow me to change it. Now I could change this right here. This is editable information, so where it says AVE, I could change it to something else. I'll just leave it AVE, and I'll save it. And then you'll see that box open at the bottom. I'm going to touch that, and it's going to open Google Keep, the database program. And there is our entry that we just changed. And again, this is editable. You can see if I wanted to change that to BLVD or something else, I certainly could, whatever you need. And that is just saved in the database now. I'm not going to go too deep into the Google Keep program. It's free. It's available on the App Store if you want to take a look at it. So let's go back to Maps. Okay, we saved out to Google Keep. That's a way to save it for your own use. If you wanted to share with someone, now you could do an email, and there's a Gmail icon at the top row. So let me click on that, and it's just going to open up Gmail with a new email created, and I would type in the to address, and we'll just type in Gulf Coast Nomad, and you can see the information here is all familiar again. It's the address and then the clickable link at the bottom of the screen. Now that HTTPS link, if someone were to click on that after you sent them this email, then it would automatically take them back to the screen that we saw earlier. I'm going to go ahead and send that. Okay, and then it just dropped me back into the sharing screen. Now let's do one more share. I'm going to touch the share button again. And I don't have Facebook installed on this particular device, but if I did, Facebook would be an option on here. You can see Pinterest is an option on here. Google Hangouts is an option. One other option that's available that I use frequently is the one that's called Copy to Clipboard. And if I touch that, it doesn't do a whole lot. It just says, you get this pop-up message that says copied to clipboard, and then it takes us back to the sharing screen. Once it's copied to my clipboard, I can paste it into any other app that perhaps doesn't automatically accept shareable information. Okay, so that's the sharing stuff. Now let's go back. Let's see here. Back to my list here. Google search. Yeah, so we did a search for an address, and what I'd like to do now is search for, let's just fast food near me, and let's see what we get. Now, there's a Jack in the Box. If you know specifically the name of a restaurant or a retail store or whatever, you could type that in, or you could type something more generic like hardware store or Mexican restaurant or whatever it is. So if you're familiar with Google search, you got a lot of options there. Now there's Jack in the Box. All right, so let me just go ahead and click on the Jack in the Box option. And we get this screen. It's a little bit different than the one we had before where we were looking at a street address. So, but we're still good. If you look at the top of the screen, we've got a menu with some items that are clickable. And over on the right, the second one from the end, is the little sharing icon again. It's that 3 dots with the 2 lines connecting them. So if I touch the sharing icon again, then we should get the share menu. Here we go. And we've got the same options because the same devices can accept all the shareable information. So if I were to choose Google Keep again, then this should be familiar to you. Now, one thing you'll notice is that the title box didn't have any text in it this time. And generally what I do, if I'm saving this for myself, the Jack in the Box text is here. I'll just cut it out of the body and paste it into the title. Not really that important, but just something that keeps the database clean and keeps it a little bit more readable in the long run. So again, just click on save, and then you get that box down at the bottom if you want to view it and edit it and so forth. Okay, so that would be how you would look for a destination, a business, for example, as opposed to a street address. Now I'm going to go over to Google Keep. Okay, and there's our new entry, and I'm going to open that. Now, If I click on the link at the bottom, that's a clickable hotspot link, and that'll take us to the Google Maps application. No, it actually took me to a browser, but in any case, you can see the map in the center of the screen there with the dropped pin, the red dropped pin icon. And if I wanted to go to the maps now, I'll touch that mapping graphic in the center, and we're back to, now this is the Google Maps app, and it may be, until you're familiar with the various apps, you may not be able to tell that we're switching back and forth between apps, but I'll just tell you that we are now in the Google Maps app, and we're back to where we were before. You can see the Jack in the Box. Down at the bottom, you can see the dropped pin and so forth. So if the directions box at the bottom, if I wanted to actually just get directions now, I would click on that, and it would map out a route for me to take to get to Jack in the Box. Okay, but I don't want to do that. What I want to do is back to my list, and for this next option, we're going to do a choose location on Google Maps. So let me get rid of some of these windows that I've opened up here. And this is not going to be as easy to do with the browser. It is possible, I believe, but I'm not 100% sure. But generally I use, well, almost exclusively I use the Google Maps app. So I'm going to open that. I guess I didn't tell you, but in the lower left corner of my screen, not the bottom row, but the main body icons, the lower left one is the Google Maps app with the red dropped pin icon sticking up there. I'm going to touch that, and we'll open the Google Maps app. Now, Google Maps, where it starts is not that important. When you want to know where you're located, you can see the two icons on the right, the white circle and the blue circle. The blue circle is for mapping, or marking up a route, but we haven't set a starting and ending point yet, so we can't use that. The white circle is for identifying my location. So if I just touch that white bullseye, it's going to re-center the map, and you can see the blue dot in the center of the screen shows you where I am on the map now. Let me just point out, this does not work unless you have a live internet connection, because it's constantly pulling mapping data from the Google database. Now, one thing you can do, which is nice with the Google Maps app, on the upper left corner of the screen, you've got a little menu. You can see the three horizontal lines with that red dot. If I touch that, I get a menu. And I'm going to scroll down. And you can see near the top here now, it says offline maps. I'm going to touch that, show you what I get. Here we get offline maps as an option. I can download mapping information so that I can use these mapping tools even when I don't have a reliable data connection. Now, you'll be limited. You can't download, as far as I know, you can't download the entire world, but you can download. And I'm going to go ahead and click that little blue arrow, and now what it's done, you can see here the screen has changed, and it's actually drawn a box, a bounding box around an area or a region. And you can resize it if you just pinch and slide and pinch and slide and so forth. You can redo the size of the bound area and the actual location of it. So you can see it wouldn't do me much good to map the ocean. So I'm going to move the blue dot in the upper left corner, and I resized it so I've got a few cities now. And if I'm going to be traveling around the area, and I know that my internet connection is not very good, or if I'm using a device that doesn't have a cell connection, it's only Wi-Fi, then I maybe would go to the public library or to a McDonald's, download the map, and then I can do these functions as long as I stay within the region it's covered by this bounding box. So over on the right hand side, you can see the word download. I won't do it today, but if I downloaded that, then it would download the map information, and then you get an option to rename it so that you know exactly what it is, and then you can reference that in the future if you need to update it, delete it, and so forth. So I'm going to close this because we don't need to do that for now. I'm going to back up to my map. So what I want to do is identify a location. And I'm just zooming in, and let's say that I know where it is on the map. So I'm just going to pick a spot here at the corner of Montgomery, and it looks like 10th or 11th or whatever. And if I touch and hold my finger on the screen, then Google knows I want to drop a pin. And you can see down at the bottom, the word dropped pin just showed up, and some address information. Now, if this was wilderness, if I was out in the national forest somewhere, and it was only a dirt trail, and there was no street name, no address, and so forth, then I wouldn't get the address. I would just get the GPS coordinates. But since we're in a city with street addresses, you can see down at the bottom, below the word dropped pin, Google gave us an approximate address that we can use as a reference. Okay, so it's 400 to 404 South 10th Street, Mount Vernon, Washington. So now we're kind of back to where we were before. We got the dropped pin in the center of the screen. And if you see at the bottom, it says the word dropped pin. That's a clickable hotspot. So I'm going to touch that. And now we're back to this screen again. So you should be familiar with this screen. And then you can see the share icon in that menu that's about the middle of the screen. If I touch the share icon, we get the share menu. And I can do emails. I can do keep. I can copy to the clipboard, whatever it is I want to do as far as sharing. So I won't share this address, but it's the same idea. I share it, and then it gives them a clickable link that they can take them right back to the map here. Okay, so let's get back to our list here. So we've looked at how to find a street address where we know the address. We've done a Google search for a business name. Now you can search for a name, you can search for a park, you can say museum, you can say the name of the museum, anything. And then the third one was choose a location on Google Maps using the Google Maps app. Now the last thing I want to talk about is this app called Send My Location. And I like that because it kind of combines all of these functions into just a couple of steps. But it's used primarily for sending my location. Okay, in other words, I don't generally use this to send the location of a museum or a restaurant or whatever to somebody. And actually, mostly what I use it for is to save this current location for myself for personal use. But again, as with the other methods that we looked at, we've got the standard sharing menu, so I can save it to the clipboard, I can save it out to social media, and so forth. So here is the Save My Location app screen, and you can see that it has found where I'm sitting. It's got that little flag and the blue dot showing my current location. And if it doesn't show your current location for whatever reason, I'm going to just move the screen here. So now we're not seeing our current location. Up at the top of the screen, you can see that menu, and in the center you see what looks like a bullseye. Okay, and I'm going to touch on that, and you'll see what happens. It takes me back to my current location. So that bullseye looking thing is kind of a standard icon for centering a mapping tool on my current location. And if you can look just to the right of the bullseye, you can see that sharing tool and then the Google Keep icon. And I think that's there just because I use it most often. So if I used email most often, it would probably put the email icon up there. But in any case, if I touch the sharing icon again, you can see this is an abbreviated version of the sharing menu. And if I extend it, you can see all those sharing options again. So now we know how to use the Share My Location app, and it's fairly quick. Like I said, this kind of shortens the process, and I can share it to Facebook or to Hangouts or to Gmail or wherever I want to share it to, same as we did before. There are quite a few tools similar to the app called Share My Location, so whichever one you have that you're using as your own personal favorite, I'm sure it has a similar sharing function on it. So there you have it, several different ways to share your current location, or in some cases to pick up a new location and share that if you're trying to direct somebody to a destination. And I hope this was helpful for you. If you like the video, click on the like. This should be on YouTube. Well, it will be on YouTube. And if you like my blog, then definitely, jump over there and run down through and look at some of the pictures. And I like it if people follow me on the blog. That lets them stay up to date without having to go searching for me on Facebook or whatever. Although, to be honest, if you search for Gulf Coast Nomad, then you will. I'm all over the internet, like I said now. So if you just search for Gulf Coast Nomad, you can find me, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or YouTube or just my blog on the internet. Anyway, I hope this was helpful to you, and you have a great day, and I will see you in the next video.